Hello everyone, my name is Mojelo, and I'd like to welcome you to the 4th episode of my Mojelo Says podcast. Amidst the global lockdown and mass social isolation, I thought it fit to speak about solitude. I'd like to talk about solitude. You see, it's commonplace for people to think that solitude only refers to time spent extremely alone, such as a week locked in a remote cabin or in self-isolation or quarantine like most people are doing now. While these things can certainly offer a substantial dose of solitude, the truth is that most of us don't have the lives that realistically allow for that type of radical isolation on a consistent basis. And besides, even while doing those things, we could be still listening to our phones or checking on Facebook or Instagram, in which case we are not really engaging in solitude. And some people are mistaken, for you see, solitude is not about physical isolation from others. It is not a form of withdrawal, but it's a state of being. Solitude is a subjective state of being in which your mind is free from input from other minds and distractions. You see, this is a much more helpful definition than just being alone, because it means that with some intentionality and planning, we can achieve it every day. Solitude is important because it allows us time to think, time to work out problems in our professional and personal lives, time to reflect on our goals, time to express gratitude for our gifts and blessings, time to heal, a time to reflect, a time to forgive, a time to plan, a time to move on, a time to work on our relationships, a time to work on ourselves. You see, in the past, people didn't have a choice but to endure the long periods of solitude. The lack of technology meant they couldn't listen to a podcast on their way to work or check on their phones while waiting at the grocery store. They were forced to confront their thoughts, their fears, their dreams, and everything else circling in their minds. Today, of course, we can literally spend every waking hour, even when we are in the bathroom, engaged and distracted thanks to our digitally connected and technological world. While solitude can certainly help us with intellectual and creative challenges in our work and life, it's also necessary because it creates the space to both hear our inner selves and the voice of God. But how can we possibly hear the voice of the universe speaking to us in the inner recesses of our hearts if we don't take the consistent time to quiet our minds intentionally and regularly? You see, being lonely hurts. It can even negatively impact your health, but the mere act of being alone with oneself doesn't have to be a bad thing. And hey, solitude can also benefit your social relationships, improve your creativity and confidence, and help you regulate your emotions so that you can better deal with adverse situations. Like the situation we're having now, where a lot of people find themselves having a lot of time on their hands. Some don't even know what to do with it. Some people don't know what to do with themselves. But you see, we have some evidence to show that valuing solitude doesn't really hurt your social life. In fact, it might add to it. You see, solitude helps us regulate our emotions. It can have a calming effect that prepares us to better engage with others. And very soon, yes, hopefully very soon, we will have the time to engage again and go back to our normal activities and our work and our friends. But you see, choosing to spend time doing things by yourself can have mental, emotional, and social benefits. In a culture where we often confuse being alone for loneliness, The ability to appreciate time by ourselves prevents us from processing the experience as a negative thing. In fact, getting better at identifying moments when we need solitude to recharge and reflect can help us better handle negative emotions and experiences like stress and burnout. You see, one of the mistakes we make is that sometimes we make our solitude experience entirely about other people. And studies have shown that people often feel inhibited from enjoying activities alone, especially when they think others are watching them. Overestimating how much other people are paying attention to us and worrying that we are being judged can stop us from doing things that would otherwise bring us joy. Being alone with your thoughts and giving yourself the space and unstructured time to let your mind wander without the social distractions can also sometimes feel intimidating, uncomfortable, kind of scary to some, because you see, a lot of people are not used to the idea of spending time alone, the idea of spending time by themselves. But despite the social stigma and apprehension about spending time alone, it's something our bodies crave. Similar to how loneliness describes being alone and wanting company, well, our loneliness can be used to describe the natural desire for solitude. But since we're not used to labeling that feeling, it can be easily confused for selfishness, withdrawal, maybe stress or depression. And it can even feed into other people's feelings like anxiety, exhaustion, and stress, especially since we might not know that time alone is what we need to make ourselves feel better. And sometimes that's just what you need. Time alone to make yourself feel better. Enjoying the benefits of time alone isn't the question of being an introvert or an extrovert. More consistently, people who value solitude and who tend not to ignore their own desires in the pursuit of pleasing others will find time alone more enjoyable. We see the freedom of not having to follow the lead of others with no pressure to do anything, no pressure to talk to anyone, no obligation to make plans with people is a great way to process and decompress, even for highly social individuals. It also helps us discover new interests and ideas without having to worry about the opinions of others. Cultivating this sense of being alone and making the choice to be alone can help you develop who you are, your sense of self, and what your true interests are. Knowing oneself makes it easier to find other people who share your passions and can improve your empathy. It can also help reevaluate your relationships and friendships. But I dare you, time with your thoughts away from social distractions can be refreshing. It can build your confidence and make it easier for you to maintain boundaries. It can boost your productivity, engagement with others, and creativity. And a study published in the Current Directions of Psychological Science found that brainstorming was enhanced when participants alternated between brainstorming alone and brainstorming with a group. Well, here's a twist to the golden rule. Treat yourself as you would treat others. Don't flake. Be open to exploring new interests. Make time in your life and put in the work, even if it's just an hour a week. Spending time with yourself, reflecting, building, exploring your mind. If you're just getting started, well, take small steps. Time spent alone is a great opportunity to explore new interests, but it doesn't mean you have to totally push yourself out of your comfort zone. And if the thought of spending time alone is especially stress triggering, that could be an important sign that you may need professional support.